for Eliza's piano competition. My fiancé, who has been with me for 7 years, has once again postponed our wedding. This is already the 17th time. What I cannot accept even more is, the day before the competition, he actually cut off my ring finger, all because Eliza said I hurt her finger, which made her unable to compete. The pain of the severed finger made me cry heart-wrenchingly, yet he is holding Eliza. His eyes are cold. He said, "Stop pretending. How painful can losing a finger be? You just lost a finger. But Eliza has lost a lifetime of dreams. This is what you owe her." His words were like knives. They shattered my heart. He forgot. My fingers could also dance on the piano keys. The wedding next week will be postponed. He gently held Eliza's reddened fingers. "This has nothing to do with Eliza. It's because you can't wear a ring with a severed finger." I'm holding my bleeding hand. I've finally understood. From now on, we owe each other nothing. The wedding, let's cancel it. The pain is as if our fingers are connected at the heart, plus the blood loss. My voice sounds a bit weak. Daniel and Eliza's gaze immediately focused on me. In Daniel's eyes, the disdain was even more evident. "Emily, your little trick of feigned capture and release. I'm already used to it. Eliza won the championship in the piano competition. It's not just her dream, it's also my dream. Moreover, it's my mother's wish before she passed away. The sooner we go to the hospital now, the greater the hope of reattaching the finger." I feel a pang of sorrow in my heart. I no longer have the strength to argue with him. I can only kneel on the ground, trying to pick up the severed finger from the pool of blood. Just as I was about to touch that severed finger, Eliza suddenly rushed over. She innocently took my hand. The finger with the engagement ring was broken. It happened to be under her foot. She looked at me with a sense of grievance. She raised her palm, which she had deliberately reddened. She said, "Emily, I know you didn't mean to hurt my hand." She raised her hand. She said softly, "Look, Eliza's hand doesn't hurt anymore. Don't drive away, brother Daniel." After saying that, Eliza twisted her body and began to sob softly. "My broken finger was stepped on by her high heels several times," she said. "If it's because of me, that causes issues in your relationship. Eliza really wouldn't be able to live on." After saying that, a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. I was once again amazed by her acting skills, but I wasn't in the mood to appreciate it now. I reached out with my blood-stained hand. I wanted to grab her ankle, but I haven't encountered it yet. She screamed and hid back in fear. Daniel hurried over. He gently helped Eliza up. Then he seriously criticized me. "Emily, don't go too far. Eliza is concerned about you with good intentions. How could you push her?" The atmosphere suddenly became tense. I looked at her in disbelief. "The pain in my hand is nowhere near the pain in my heart, brother Daniel. Emily didn't push me. I tripped over myself accidentally. Don't blame her." Eliza's obedient and understanding look made Daniel feel heartbroken. He quickly stepped forward, gently cupping her face, wiping away her tears. "At this point, you are still speaking for her. If I weren't here, you would be bullied again." Eliza pouted at him. "Speak." Then Eliza stayed by brother Daniel's side. "Is that okay?" Daniel gently stroked her hair. He held her softly in his arms. "All right." My vision gradually blurred, but the smug provocation in Eliza's eyes remained clearly in my sight. I used up my last bit of strength. With trembling hands, I reached for the broken finger. Daniel snapped back to reality. He stepped on the back of my hand. He said coldly, "Apologize to Eliza right now." He looked down at me from above. His tone was firm, leaving no room for refusal. Seeing that I had no reaction, the pressure under his foot grew heavier. Severe pain shot from my arm to my heart. "I demand that you apologize, brother Daniel. Eliza doesn't mind these things. Let's take Emily to the hospital first. She's lost so much blood. If playing the piano is affected in the future, it will be troublesome." Daniel smirked disdainfully. "It's just a little blood. It's nothing serious." His head felt heavier and heavier. The scene before me gradually blurred. The last thing I saw was the man who once said he would love me forever, embracing another woman closely, can play the piano. Having just Eliza is enough in a daze. I dreamt of something from a long time ago. Daniel and I sat side by side at the piano, 4 hands playing together. After finishing a piece, he gently took my hand, examining it closely. His eyes filled with admiration and affection. He said, "Emily, your hands are truly beautiful. From now on, play the piano for me, okay?" The music suddenly stopped. He didn't wait for my answer. His expression turned terrifyingly fierce. I begged him to let me go, but he wouldn't listen. He swung the knife and cut off my ring finger. I was so scared that my eyes went wide. I suddenly sat up. I smelled a familiar fragrance. This is my room. There was a close photo of Daniel and me on the nightstand. After waking up, I immediately raised my right hand. There was only thick gauze on my ring finger. The ring was gone. I felt a sinking feeling in my heart. All hope was lost. "Emily, are you awake?" Daniel was sitting by the bed. He skillfully twirled an apple in his hand. The peel fell off completely. His gaze was gentle. He said softly, "I've already had the doctor take care of your wound. It's nothing serious." He handed the peeled apple to me, as if nothing had happened. I stared straight at him. Tears welled up in my eyes. What happened? Don't you love eating apples? The most I was looking at that apple. The emotions inside me could no longer be suppressed. I raised my hand and knocked the apple away. Daniel was startled by my action. He was stunned for a second. Then he suddenly stood up. He shouted loudly at me, "Emily, what are you causing a scene about now?" My chest hurt severely. I raised my injured right hand. I asked, feeling both angry and helpless, "You said this isn't serious. You know very well that I still need to play the piano." Daniel rubbed the bridge of his nose. He seemed very impatient. "Now you remember that you need to play the piano. But when you deliberately hurt Eliza, did you consider that she also needs to play the piano? She gave up everything abroad to help me find a suitable heart. This competition was clearly what she looked forward to the most. This competition was clearly the thing she looked forward to the most. Yet you chose to treat her this way." Daniel's mouth has been moving continuously, but I can no longer hear what he is saying. His heart was clearly donated by my mother. What does this have to do with Eliza? I didn't hurt her hand. The heart in your body is enough for me. Daniel interrupted me, frowning with an impatient tone. Things have come to this point. Are you still unwilling to admit it? I said that Eliza and I are completely over. The person who will marry me next month will only be you. Why do you keep making things difficult for her? The remaining explanation, interrupted by his intense anger. I held back my tears. My fingers were clenched so tightly they turned white, staring at him, trying to control my emotions, but the tears kept flowing uncontrollably. Daniel noticed my sadness. A hint of apology appeared on his face. He reached out to help me wipe my tears, but I turned my head away. Avoiding his hand, I asked, "What about my severed finger?" The hand that was near my ear suddenly stopped, then answered. The doctor said it was too long after the disconnection, so he pulled me into his arms and softly said, "After marriage, you just need to take care of the household. No need to play the piano anymore." I coldly replied, "Go away." My tone was calm as usual. He seemed not to hear until I used all my strength. I repeated it to him again. "Go away." He suddenly pushed me away. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction, truly unreasonable. If it were Eliza, she definitely wouldn't act like this. After saying that, he casually grabbed a piece of fruit peel nearby and threw it directly at my face. He said coldly, "What a pretentious act, just like your mother's daughter." Before I could speak, he slammed the door and left with a bang. He was so angry. He shook the photo of us on the wall right off. The frame cracked with many fine lines. After that argument, Daniel didn't come home for a whole week. His phone was silent the entire time. No words of concern at all, but I know where he is. Because Eliza always tells me their plans on time. Daniel took her to see the cherry blossoms. He even held a concert for her in the cherry blossom garden. They worked together seamlessly. They looked very well matched in the live footage. People occasionally praised them as a perfect pair. Daniel never explained. Eliza just shyly looked down, her cheeks flushed. Even after the concert ended, the two passionately kissed on stage. There was also a text message attached. "Emily, this is the etiquette abroad. Don't overthink it. I just want to tell you, Daniel and I are both doing well. You don't need to worry. Continue." Daniel and Eliza posted a moment together. The photo shows their intertwined plaster hand molds. The caption reads, "Eliza has a noticeable ring mark on her ring finger." This post about her was quickly deleted. If it were in the past, I would have definitely called to question it furiously and vent all my grievances. But now, I no longer care. A slight vibration from my phone brings my thoughts back. "Miss Emily, this is the 18th time you and Mr. Daniel have postponed the wedding. The wedding venue has been rearranged. Would you like to come and confirm it yourself? Every time the wedding is postponed, I may feel a little disappointed, but I can always adjust my mood quickly. I always tell myself, in the end, I'm still the one who will marry him. I just persuade myself like this. I have personally designed the wedding 17 times. I'm a bit tired this time. I was just about to reply to the message. Daniel walked in through the door. He saw me sitting in the living room. He paused for a moment. Then he took off his coat. He hugged me from behind. A fresh scent of perfume wafted over. It was my least favorite lemon scent. I'm sorry. I've been too busy with work these days. Is your hand feeling better? I casually shook my head. Daniel held my right hand apologetically. He gently blew on it. I'm sorry. I was too impulsive that day. Don't take it to heart. Okay, hearing his words, I couldn't help but chuckle coldly inside. He took out a gift box adorned with cherry blossom patterns. He said, I brought you a gift. I opened it to take a look. Inside was an exquisite cherry blossom necklace. If I remember correctly, this necklace was still around Eliza's neck yesterday. I was just about to refuse. He has already put the necklace around my neck. Emily, he said hesitantly, your hand isn't healed yet. The new piece of music. Why don't you let Eliza play for you? I looked at him carefully to daze him. His gaze was particularly gentle. This reminds me of how we looked when we first met at the music exhibition. At that time, he sincerely praised me. And now, the same expression, but it was for the person he has always been thinking about. I gave a wry smile. I took the necklace off my neck. I casually tossed it back into the box. She can't play my piece. These words immediately infuriated Daniel. His earlier gentleness vanished in an instant. He said with a cold smile, can't play. Emily, stop pretending to be high-minded. Eliza can't play. Can a cripple like you play? I have already given the score to Eliza, no matter whether you agree or not. She will play. He finished saying this. I stood there in a daze. My heart was already shattered beyond recognition. Now it has been completely crushed. The place where my right hand was injured, because of his earlier shove, it oozed a little blood. He said, since she wants to play, then let her have it. Daniel heard this. His expression immediately changed from gloomy to bright. He said, Emily, I promise this is the last time. Eliza gave up the music award she could easily get abroad to help me find my heart's source. This is what I owe her. You can understand what I mean, right? A sudden sharp pain struck my chest. I decided not to argue with him anymore. I said calmly, come with me to see Mom tomorrow. Come with me to see Mom tomorrow. He hasn't said thank you to Mom yet. Daniel is a bit confused, but I still nodded in agreement. Because I hadn't replied to the messages, the wedding planning company called me directly. I lowered my voice. I spoke slowly. I'm sorry. The wedding is off. No need to prepare anymore. Daniel walked out of the bathroom. He casually asked, what doesn't need to be prepared? It's nothing. Just telling them that my new song has been released. No need to prepare anymore. He smiled gently. He kissed me softly on the ear. I thank you on behalf of Eliza. Midnight. Daniel's call woke me up. After he hung up the phone, he hurriedly got ready to go out. I stopped him and asked, it's so late. Where are you going? The company said there's an emergency. Actually, there's no emergency at all. It's just that Eliza couldn't sleep. He picked up the car keys and was about to leave. I didn't expose his awkward performance. Just a reminder. Don't forget, I have to see Mom tomorrow. Why are you in such a rush? Nothing major is going to happen. He turned around. His tone carried dissatisfaction. But as soon as he saw the umbrella I handed over, his anger instantly disappeared. Daniel said, I will be back soon. Wait for me by the roadside later. I'll come pick you up. After he left, I lay in bed tossing and turning until dawn. Then, I waited by the roadside until noon. Daniel still hadn't shown up. I stared at the unreachable phone, feeling utterly exhausted. Just as I was about to go to the suburbs alone, my phone suddenly received a message from the bridal shop. Miss Emily, the wedding dress has been altered as per your request. Do you have time to come by? I originally planned to let them handle this matter, but thinking about how much effort I put into designing it, at least I should go see how it ends up. What surprised me was, I actually ran into Daniel and Eliza here. The wedding dress I designed myself. It's now being worn by Eliza. Daniel is holding her hand. The staff is guiding them on how to take pictures. They took one photo after another. They look like a happy couple about to get married. In front of the camera, Daniel is kneeling on one knee. He placed a diamond ring on Eliza's ring finger. The empty space on my right hand still aches faintly, but my heart has long since gone numb. I can no longer feel any fluctuations. I stared at them blankly for a while. Then I turned to leave. Eliza crossed her arms over her chest, with a proud smile on her face. Her gaze was full of provocation. She stared straight at me. She looked proudly at the wedding dress she was wearing. She said, "You really love to imitate. I play the piano and you play the piano too. I'll wear what you wear. You even want to learn how I find a boyfriend. You want to choose the same style of wedding dress as I do. What a pity. A substitute is ultimately just a substitute. No one will truly love it. Look, with just a gentle wave of my hand, everything of yours will belong to me." I looked at the wedding dress on her that was pinned because it was too big. My lips curled slightly upward. I said to her, "As long as you're happy, that's all that matters." After saying that, he turned to leave, but she grabbed his arm. She said with a smile, "Hey, I was just joking. Don't take it so seriously. I'm the last person who likes to take something from others. Look, I even prepared a wedding gift for you and Daniel." She took out a square box and handed it to me. I looked at her in confusion. She suddenly laughed. It's like suddenly realizing something. "Oh dear, my memory. I forgot that you have difficulty moving now. It's okay, I'll help you." After saying that, she personally opened the gift box. Inside was a mold of her and Daniel's intertwined hands. How does it feel? Not bad, I suppose. Back then, Daniel told me, "We will always be together, until we grow old together. By the way, do you think this ring looks a bit familiar?" I followed her gaze to that statue. The pattern on the ring was designed by Daniel and me together. I felt a tightness in my chest. Eliza showed a proud smile. She pulled out a bone flute necklace from around her neck. To be precise, that is my phalanx. My eyes widened instantly. My hand couldn't help but tremble. Eliza, however, casually showed me her engagement ring on her ring finger. "Actually, your finger could have been reattached." But Daniel insisted on turning it into a piece of jewelry to give to me. He said it would make my artistic journey smoother. By the way, he also mentioned, if it weren't for your mother's kindness to him in the past, he would have kicked you out long ago. And that old lady, your mom, even after she passed away still, the sentence wasn't finished. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. She looked at me in shock. She said, "Are you crazy? You dare hit me?" She did not respond. I directly reached out and pulled off the necklace she was wearing. Eliza heard footsteps. Her eyes darted. She suddenly fell to the ground. The sculpture shattered as well. She shouted, "Emily, what are you doing?" Daniel hurried over to help Eliza up. He looked at me angrily. Eliza touched her reddened face, on the verge of tears. "Brother Daniel, I just wanted to give Emily a gift." I didn't expect her to get so angry. Daniel saw the shards on the ground. He was taken aback for a moment, but soon he coldly stared at me, while I was still willing to listen to your explanation. Quickly apologized to Eliza. I glared at him coldly. His dissatisfaction was more evident on his face. "What? No apology? You still want to postpone the wedding?" I heard him speak with a threatening tone. I couldn't help but laugh. Then I looked at him in disappointment. I raised my left hand and slapped him hard. "Sorry, I was too focused on hitting her. I forgot to hit you." In his surprised expression, I slowly said, "By the way, the wedding isn't postponed. It's canceled." I moved my slightly numb palm around. I took off the couple's bracelet I was wearing and threw it directly at Daniel's face. "This bracelet is from when we first got together. Mom took me and him to the most effective temple to pray for it. Those who wear this bracelet are in love. They will definitely be together for life. It was originally a beautiful blessing. Now it sounds particularly ridiculous." "Emily," I turned to leave. Eliza suddenly ran over, crying, and grabbed my wrist. "Emily, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Don't blame Brother Daniel. He really loves you. Don't misunderstand him because of me. As long as you are willing to forgive him. I will leave now, far away from you." She pleaded with a crying voice. The tears smudged her carefully done makeup. She seemed to have suffered a great injustice. But she was still deliberately pressing on my wound. I shook off her hand. I pinched her chin. "Speak. This is definitely your fault. You enjoy acting so much. Why did you even study music in the first place? It would have been better to study acting directly. Now at least you're an award-winning actress. Emily, can you please stop causing trouble?" Daniel came to his senses. He immediately pushed me away, carefully shielding Eliza behind me, as if I were some terrifying monster. "Don't think that just because Eliza is pure and kind, you can slander her at will. It was you who acted first. It was also you who caused the trouble. What exactly do you want?" He kept pressing me for answers. I found this a bit ridiculous, so I took my phone out of my bag and opened the chat history between Eliza and me. She repeatedly provoked me openly, enough to expose her false facade. When I handed over my phone, Daniel looked a bit confused, but still reached out to take it. "Additionally, the heart in your body belongs to me. brother Daniel. Eliza feels very dizzy. Eliza didn't wait for Daniel to take the phone. She softly collapsed into his arms. Although her acting was obviously fake, it made Daniel panic instantly. He quickly picked Eliza up. When he looked at me, his eyes were full of resentment. It was about to overflow. "Look at what you've done. You better hope Eliza is all right." Watching him walk away, I gave a bitter smile. The staff watching the spectacle exchanged glances. They were whispering to each other. When I looked at them, they immediately fell silent. I no longer cared about these things. I slowly walked down the street. The evening breeze brushed against my face. Since meeting Daniel, this is the first time I've felt clear-headed. This is also the first time I felt glad about postponing our wedding for him. I'm really grateful that I could leave with such ease. I've thought about it for a long time. I decided to return to my hometown after graduating from college. I originally planned to stay in New York temporarily, but I met Daniel just as I was preparing to leave. Since then, I fell wholeheartedly in love with him. Yet I was genuinely tied down by my feelings. Back home, I started organizing my belongings. The things in the house, from large furniture to small utensils, all of them were carefully chosen by me. Even the cups were a couple's design. I don't plan to take these things with me, and I feel there's no need to take them. Then, I went straight to the bedroom to pack my clothes. The broken picture frame lay quietly aside. While sorting through documents, I accidentally found my mother's consent form for voluntary heart donation. A wave of sadness surged in my heart. Daniel has had a heart condition since he was a child. When I met him, his days were already numbered. Eliza ended the relationship because of his illness. She decisively proposed a breakup. After that, she went abroad. Later, I met him. Mom had a very good impression of him before Mom passed away from liver cancer. She had just successfully matched with Daniel, so she decided to donate her heart to him. At that time, I cried very sadly. Mom held my hand and softly comforted me. "Emily, don't cry. In the future, Daniel will love you like Mom did. Both he and I will take good care of you. But Daniel's heart is not with me." My tears soaked the paper. I quickly wiped away my tears. I set the report aside and continued organizing my things with heavy footsteps. The door was suddenly pushed open forcefully. The sound was very loud. It seemed to carry a questioning tone. The person was taken aback for a moment and said coldly, "What are you up to again? Running away from home?" I didn't respond. I was just about to close the suitcase. Daniel stepped on it with one foot, including that organ donation agreement, which he trampled underfoot. "Step aside," I said in a warning tone, but he completely ignored it. "Emily, stop making a scene. If there really is something between Eliza and me, it wouldn't even concern you. We're going to the bridal shop today. It's just fulfilling a promise from the past. Is it really necessary for you to be so serious? Get away." Anger and grievance surged in my heart. I couldn't hold back any longer. I suddenly stood up. I pushed him hard. He almost lost his balance. I shouted loudly, "Daniel, we've long been over. I don't want to hear any of your nonsense. This isn't the first time I've lost control and caused a scene in front of him. In the past, I did this because I was jealous. It's because I'm jealous. It's because I care. It's because I'm afraid he'll leave me. But this time is different. All I feel inside is resentment and disgust. I never want to have anything to do with him again." Daniel clearly felt something was off. His eyes were filled with confusion and worry. "Emily, are you serious?" I quietly picked up the piece of paper. I gently wiped off the dust on it. "What is this?" I asked. "Is it another correspondence with that childhood friend of yours? I always felt your relationship was unusual. No wonder you dare to talk back to me like that." After saying that, he grabbed the agreement, but when he saw the contents of the agreement, his expression suddenly froze. His face gradually turned pale. The slightly yellowed white paper began to tremble in his hand. Even his voice started to tremble. "Impossible. My heart source was clearly found for me by Eliza. This thing is something you deliberately brought to trick me, right?" Regarding his firm denial, I feel unable to understand. I want to snatch the agreement, but he holds it tightly. I saw his eyes slowly turning red. I let go of my hand. "Is it really true? You know best in your heart. Mom's heart has already been given to him. Since he wants this agreement so badly, then let's give it to him together." As I dragged my suitcase past him, Daniel grabbed my hand. "You haven't answered me yet. The wound isn't fully healed. It hurts faintly." He noticed the bandage on my hand. He panicked and let go. I almost fell. The paper in his hand crunched as he squeezed it. He asked, "Are you lying to me? Eliza can't be that kind of person." She has always been kind. His words made me uncomfortable. I turned around. I took out my phone. I sent him the chat history between Eliza and me, and the recording of our conversation at noon. At the same time, I also sent the surveillance video from the coffee shop. It clearly recorded Eliza injuring her hand with the door, and the process of her framing me. I didn't notice Daniel's reaction. I directly stepped over the photo on the ground. I gently closed the door and left. I vaguely seemed to hear Daniel calling me, but that voice was too faint. With a gust of wind, it became inaudible. I booked a flight home for the day after tomorrow. I originally planned to take my mom back with me, but my hometown isn't ready yet. I'm worried that a rushed arrangement might disturb my mom, so I had to decide to come back to pick her up later. Before I left, I bought my mom's favorite carnations to see her. Someone bought flowers before I did. It was drizzling in the cemetery. Daniel was kneeling in front of my mom's tombstone. His black suit was covered in tiny droplets of water. I slowly walked up. I placed the bouquet down. Daniel spoke up before I did. His voice sounded somewhat subdued. "Why didn't you answer my call?" "Because there's no need for that." My response was cold and distant. I thought this would make him stop talking, but I forgot. Daniel has always been self-centered. He keeps talking. Things shouldn't be this way. How did it end up like this? Why didn't you tell me? My original intention was to tell him. It was my mom who stopped me. She was worried that Daniel would know. It would make his love for me feel heavy. Mom said, "Emily, Mom hopes Daniel's love for you is genuine. She doesn't want him to be influenced by my thoughts and change his feelings for you. Emily, you deserve the most sincere and pure love, even if the current ending isn't perfect. I still don't doubt Mom's choice. I deserve the most sincere love. If love isn't deep enough, then it's simply not deep enough, even though I've already told him. I will only act on this matter, to be accused of repaying kindness with malice." This sudden appearance of a person interrupted my desire to chat with my mom. Just as I was about to leave with my umbrella, Daniel grabbed my arm. The rain was getting heavier. He held my hand tightly. His forehead rested on the back of my hand. Like a child who has done something wrong, he said with a choked voice, "Emily, I'm sorry. I've let you down, and I've let your aunt down too. I'm too foolish to trust Eliza unreservedly. I'm sorry, Emily. Can you still forgive me?" Raindrops slid down his sharply defined cheek, dripping onto the back of my hand. It felt a bit warm. He said, "You're right. You really are foolish enough to never listen to my explanations. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You're such a simple person. Even if I heard it, I wouldn't believe it." He stepped forward. He wrapped his arms around my waist. His shoulders shook slightly. "It was my fault. I'm so foolish, Emily. Let's start over. Okay, he has a lot of strength. I tried several times to push him away, but I failed each time in front of Mom. I wanted to save him some face. I tried hard to suppress my emotions. I gently patted his head. "Speak, get up." Daniel suddenly lifted his head. His face was still streaked with tears, but a glimmer of joy and a smile flashed in his eyes. He asked softly, "Emily, have you forgiven me?" I smiled slightly. I said coldly, "Your love for the rain is your own business. Don't drag me into it." I deliberately held my hand in front of him after it touched the water. It's easy to get infected. Daniel suddenly lost his voice. I took advantage of his distraction. I quickly pushed him away, and I patted the spot he had just touched. Daniel looked at me. He asked, "You say it. I'm going to accuse you of intentional harm now. Is it still possible?" He stared at me intently, trying to find a loophole in my words, until he was sure that my words came from the heart. His gaze gradually dimmed. I walked away, stepping through the rainwater. A voice came from behind. "I'm sorry. There are two phrases in the world that sound the most weightless. One is 'I love you.' The other is 'I'm sorry' under the dazzling spotlight. He told me 'I love you,' which trapped me for a whole 7 years, and I endured 7 years of suffering. Actually, I should have awakened long ago. When leaving, I saw Daniel outside the airport, but he didn't call out to me. He just quietly watched me, silently waving his hand. I read a sentence from his moving lips. "I will make her pay the price." However, regarding him, I have completely lost interest. Time gradually dulls all the pain. After returning to my hometown, I renovated the old house a bit. I planted my favorite flowers, and I raised a cat that I've always wanted to have. However, Daniel is allergic to dog hair. No, actually, it's Eliza who is allergic to dog hair. So Daniel doesn't let me raise a cat. He said, "If you have a cat, it won't be convenient for Eliza to come over." On the second day after returning to my hometown, I received a text from Eliza. She said, "Don't think that just because you tell Daniel everything. Don't think that telling Daniel everything will change anything. He won't hate me for liking you. Let me tell you, don't think too much. He loves me more now than before." She got matching tattoos on my back. She even asked if I was going crazy with jealousy. I sighed. She's the crazy one. Then I blocked her. She felt it wasn't enough. So I simply changed my SIM card. After my hand injury healed up a bit, she went to the welfare home to be a music teacher. The children there are very obedient. The songs she plays casually always earn their sincere praise. MTK's Emily is amazing. Her piano skills are the best I've ever seen. She's even better than Lang Lang mentioned in the textbooks. They look at my incomplete fingers and comment like this: "Is it because MTK's Emily is too outstanding? That's why God made her lose a finger. Is it out of jealousy?" I smiled. Maybe that's the case. Actually, after losing a finger, I'm not very good at playing the piano, but the kids always generously praise me. Slowly, they healed the wounds in my heart. In the past, Daniel also always praised me without reservation. He used to compliment my beautiful fingers and how lovely I played the piano. He said I was gentle and attentive in my work. But ever since Eliza returned to her country, he started to complain that my cooking wasn't good. He said my hands only know how to pose. He thinks playing the piano is a waste of time. He used to praise me for being gentle and attentive. Now he says I'm petty and calculating. Back in my hometown, apart from those lovely little kids, I also ran into my childhood good friend Lucas. We once agreed to attend the same university. However, I like music, but he is interested in mechanical engineering, so we parted ways. Lucas is the typical model student that everyone admires. I had heard quite a bit about him from my mom before. He not only founded his own company, but also launched a market-leading smart robot. I asked him why he came back. He smiled slightly and answered, "To remember where one comes from, I'm back to do something for my hometown." Regarding this somewhat unbelievable explanation, I did not press for further details. Just like he never asked me about my fingers, we often went to the welfare home together. I taught the children to play the piano. He taught the children to do handicrafts. Watching the children play, it felt as if we had returned to our childhood. Woof woof. The sudden sound of barking startled me. Lucas raised the small robotic dog in his hand. "This dog doesn't bite. It's for you." He placed the robotic dog on the ground. I looked at its clumsy appearance and couldn't help but laugh. When we were kids, he took me to steal apricots from the neighbor's tree. I ended up getting bitten by a big yellow dog. Since then, although I like dogs, I've always been afraid to get close to them. Is this specially given to me? I gently patted the mechanical dog's little head. I asked. He gently reached out his hand, helping me tuck my loose hair behind my ear. He asked softly, "What are you thinking about, these extra experimental subjects? Just right for you." "Oh, what, are you disappointed you think too much?" Lucas smiled, his eyes curved like a crescent moon. "Just teasing you, actually. I prepared for a long time. Really a long time. The days back home were the happiest times of my years, if it weren't for my hands aching faintly every rainy day, and the sudden verification messages popping up on WeChat. I almost forgot about that nightmarish memory from before. Eliza's profile picture is an intimate close-up of her and Daniel. Both of them are smiling, but Eliza's smile is bright and radiant. Daniel's smile, however, carries resentment and calculation. She sent a message. "Little cripple, remember to watch the live stream tonight. I'm about to participate in the piano competition you've been looking forward to. I'm playing the piece you put so much effort into writing. Back in college, you took the honor that was supposed to be mine. Tonight, I'm going to take it back." Her words left me a bit confused. It took me a long time to remember. There was a provincial piano competition held in college before. Originally, the participant withdrew due to health issues. In the end, I replaced them in the competition, and I won first place, finally. I remembered the name of the second-place winner, Eliza, so that's how it was. I smiled easily, compared to men. I prefer to believe that she is jealous of my excellence. However, even if she doesn't remind me, I will still go to watch the competition. After all, it's the stage I've always dreamed of. As for that piece, having someone perform it is better than no one knowing it. The competition has started. Eliza is behaving very confidently. She seems very assured about winning. She even deliberately showcased the tattoo on her backless dress in front of the camera. It's not a couple's tattoo, but rather an insulting phrase in Spanish. She clearly doesn't understand its meaning. People in the audience start to whisper as the piano music begins to play. The judges' expressions are becoming more and more unpleasant. I quickly realized she is not playing the piece I wrote, but rather a rearrangement of Lang Lang's famous piece. Not long after, she was forcibly stopped from competing. She looked surprised. She was hurriedly taken down by the staff on the live broadcast stage. This incident quickly rose to trending topics. Her back tattoo and past experiences were dug up by netizens. Eliza's piano skills are average. She can only play pieces. She cannot compose during college. She plagiarized her roommate's original composition. As a result, she attracted many fans later. Daniel had a heart attack, and Eliza happened to be noticed by a foreign artist. So she left Daniel behind. When she got abroad, she realized she had been deceived. She struggled to escape back to the country. After returning home, she found that Daniel still missed her, and his girlfriend happened to be me. Later, her chat records with me, along with those recordings and videos, all were publicly disclosed online. The staff at the wedding dress shop also discussed what they saw at the time. There are criticisms of her everywhere online. She and Daniel are almost drowned out by these voices. Before this, Daniel spent a lot of money to push her to the peak of the music industry. He also introduced her to many well-known figures in the music industry. Her life was almost at its pinnacle. This competition was supposed to be the final step. She just needed to step up. But at her most triumphant moment, the man who once elevated her to greatness suddenly pushed her down from the clouds. I didn't pay special attention to the story's ending. I just occasionally saw netizens saying she had gone insane. Now I'm living my own life. Those matters no longer concern me, until one day, Little Stone quietly walked up to me, mysteriously telling me, "That person is back." I was a bit puzzled. I asked, "Who?" Little Stone pointed outside the door. I turned to look. A shadow quickly dodged away. I have a rough idea of who it might be, but I still decided to go out and take a look. After all, it's not right to let a violent person linger around the Welfare Institute all day, no matter how you think about it. It feels wrong. Daniel has lost a lot of weight. Although he dressed up on purpose, it still couldn't hide his obvious dark circles and pale complexion. "What are you doing here?" He avoided my gaze. His voice was a bit hoarse as he said, "Emily, don't be afraid. Today is your birthday. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday." He held a gift box and a cake in one hand. In the other hand, he was holding a large bouquet of double-petaled cherry blossoms. Looking at the cherry blossoms, he handed over. I suddenly remembered. Under the cherry blossom tree, he once held me, expressing his love deeply. At that time, his gaze and words are always so sincere and passionate. "Emily, you really resemble the person I like. From now on, we will always be together." Okay, until now. Only now do I understand what he meant by like. But Emily is just Emily. She is one of a kind, not a substitute for anyone. If you hadn't shown up, I think I would have been happier. Daniel tensed up. His gaze fixated on me. "Emily, I have already made that woman suffer. Do you still refuse to forgive me?" He put down what he was holding and grabbed my arm tightly. His voice suddenly rose. "She has already paid the price, and what about you? Eliza did hurt me, but the knife that hurt me has actually always been in your hand." I pushed him away, and my voice grew louder. "Daniel has nothing to say. He just keeps saying he loves me over and over." I simply looked at him coldly, just like he used to look at me, until he opened his shirt. My name was carved on his chest, the place closest to his heart, but I know that heart has always belonged to Mom. "Emily, you still not believe that I love you?" I looked at that beating heart. I couldn't help but reach out to touch it, but just as I was about to touch his chest, I stopped. At that moment, I really wanted to dig that heart out, but I couldn't do it. "Daniel, you are too immature. Your love is even more childish than you. True love is never superficial." I raised my right hand, seeing it intact. Daniel's eyes widened in surprise, staring at the direction of my ring finger. It seems hard to believe. That finger is a custom-made realistic prosthetic finger designed by Lucas for me, except for the lack of sensation. It looks no different from a regular finger. "You once made me feel pain and incompleteness, but someone has given me warmth and new hope. Daniel, it has long been over between us. I no longer have feelings for you." With a slight sound, something fell and shattered on the ground. Daniel suddenly laughed. After a while, he closed his eyes. "So it turns out I'm this pathetic. Emily, thank you for actually loving someone like me for 7 years. Don't worry, I won't disturb you anymore from now on. I will silently bless you in my heart." May you be safe and happy for the rest of your life." He turned around in a daze and slowly walked away under the setting sun. His silhouette appeared particularly lonely and lost. I felt a tightness in my heart. I couldn't help but call out to him, "Daniel." He stopped in his tracks, but he didn't turn around. "Live well, with Mom's heart." Live well. Daniel is very trustworthy. I haven't seen him for a long time. 2 years later, Lucas and I went to pick up Mom and bring her home. At that time, I heard about what happened to him. After Daniel went back, he sold his property and built a memorial. Later, he was retaliated against by Eliza. He accidentally killed her in self-defense. Then he climbed to the rooftop and tried to commit suicide. But at the last moment, he regretted it. He desperately tried to save himself. As a result, he still fell and fractured multiple bones. Later, he woke up, but his intelligence was permanently impaired. Lucas and I went to visit him. Actually, it was mainly to see Mom's heart. That heart was supposed to carry the emotions of the two people who loved me the most. Daniel no longer remembers me, but he still gives me an innocent smile. He escaped the legal consequences. The nurse at the hospital told me, over the years, he has never smiled at anyone. He asked me, "Will you come to see me again?" I thought for a moment and replied, "I will, because Mom's heart is here." After leaving, Lucas seemed to be in a bad mood. He insisted on taking me to see that famous memorial. The museum almost completely replicated the home of me and Daniel. There was a photo of the two of us hanging on the wall. The photo has been restored. In the photo, he is smiling happily, and my face is covered by a cute rabbit pattern in the display case next to it. Our engagement rings are placed under the incandescent light. It sparkles. In the center of the exhibition hall, there is the piano where I first met him. Lucas said, "Let's play a piece together. Can you play? I can learn. I'm just a bit clumsy. You have to teach me slowly." He gently held my right hand. He asked tentatively. This time I didn't pull away. Instead, I gently held his hand, feeling the warmth of his fingertips. Sure, I like being a piano teacher. This moment, I let go of some stubborn thoughts in my heart. It felt like my heart was brightened. No matter where I am, it can be my stage.